you'll bow your heads, I'll lead us in prayer, and then in the pledge of allegiance to Father. Father, once again, we thank you for the privilege of serving our citizens here in Lakeland. We welcome you to come amongst us and be with us as we make decisions that are going to affect our city and the lives of our citizens. Thank you for our staff. We pray blessings upon them, give them clarity of thought as they present these items before us. Bless these commissioners and their families as well. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen. Face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Reporter, call the roll, please.
Mayor Bunker?
Here.
Vice Mayor Roman?
Here.
Commissioner Dial? Here. Commissioner Gallick? Commissioner Plum?
Here.
We do have a quorum. First item.
Public hearing, ordinance amending the fiscal year 2015-2016 budget passed by ordinance 15-222 and amended by ordinance 15-225.
Okay. We have a public hearing on two items here. The first one is a budget amendment. Do we have any speakers, Madam Reporter, submitted for the budget amendment? Seeing none. Do we have any input from the commissioners during the hearing? Seeing none. Madam Reporter, next item.
Public hearing, ordinance amending the membership of the Economic Development Commission and updating the Lakeland Code.
Okay. This is our second item for public hearing tonight. Do we have any submissions to speak on this item? Seeing none. Commissioners, do you have any input on this item during the public hearing? Seeing none. Madam Reporter, without objection, we're going to call the public hearing to close and move to the next item.
Treasurer's report, general fund, state street aid fund, debt service fund, sewer fund, stormwater fund, solid waste fund.
Do you have a motion to get this to the floor? I have a motion from Commissioner Plum. Do I have a second? Second from Commissioner Dial. Treasurer's report is properly on the floor. Do we have any discussion? Seeing no discussion, let's move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Item passes unanimously. Madam Reporter, next item.
Reports from committees, members of the Board of Commissioners, and other officers. City Manager's report.
Mr. Manager, do you have the floor?
Thank you. Just a few dates to go over tonight before we get started with the bulk of the meeting. The Jury of Lakeland, again, as a reminder from last week, we have a new date. That's May the 14th. And again, start at the winery, ending at the winery. It's going to be a great day. Also, the Do Not Knock list that is active on our website for sign-ups. This is the one to, if you do not want solicitors coming to your home and knocking on your door, you can sign up for this Do Not Knock list. We've had actually a pretty significant number of sign-ups so far. So again, that's out there and will continue to be out there for signing up. Youth soccer registration is currently open and will be closing on February 22nd. And the Easter egg hunt, last day I'm going to mention, March 19th, and it'll be at IH Park. So mark those on your calendar. If there's any other questions for me, that's all I have for tonight.
All right. Any questions for the City Manager? Seeing none. Madam Reporter, next item.
Commissioners' reports.
All right, Commissioners, do we have any reports from committees? All right, we have Commissioner Dial with the report from Parks and Recreation.
Yes, we had a citizen speak at our meeting that we had last week, Paul Zucola, talking about the Plantation Hills Park. So our committee met and we discussed that, and what we've determined that we're going to do is submit a prioritized list to Robbie, and then we're going to decide what we're going to do first and what can be prioritized as the most pressing thing to do. Take out the playground equipment, do some cleanup, do some trimming of some trees, and then determine what we're going to do. So then we'll be able to come to this board and decide what we need action taken on. Also, we discussed the naming of the amphitheater, and Scott Robbins, one of our new members, brought a great idea to us, and it was overwhelming that our board liked it. So we're hoping that you all did too. When you talk about the Germantown Performing Arts Center, the Bartlett Performing Arts Center, it's shortened by saying GPAC, BPAC, the Shell instead of Overton Shell. So playing off of that type of naming, we looked at a logo, not really a logo, but a picture that would go with it, called the Lakeland Amphitheater, and then shorten it and call it the Lamp. We could tie in some things on the stage, such as some old gas lights that would look really good with the type of atmosphere that we have there. And these are just some artist renderings that are not professionally done, just pulled together.
That's pretty cool up there in the top left, isn't it?
It really is. We like that little script L. But, so the Lakeland Amphitheater, formally, and then it can become known as the Lamp.
Wow.
So we'd like to submit that to you all for consideration of naming the amphitheater.
Great suggestion.
Do you like it?
Awesome.
We did too. We all really like it.
Awesome.
And again, we're not discussing, a logo for anything tonight, but kind of a way that could be used. And this will come back for formal action probably next month. But if you're generally in favor of this, we'll continue to work through and name it formally.
Any members of the audience, thumbs up, thumbs down? What do you think?
Y'all like it?
It's pretty cool.
We did
Yeah.
too.
Thumbs up for the record that we got all thumbs up over here, so that's really neat.
It is.
All right.
Good idea.
Great.
So we're happy with that, and we'll come back to this board with a prioritized list of what we think needs to happen with Plantation Hills next month.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the report. Do you have any other commission reports?
CPC, all we did was elect the officers.
Okay.
That's our order of business.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Commissioner. And so, I guess, moving on, that's our two commissioners with committees thus far. Madam Recorder, next item, please.
Sewerage Commission business recommendation to approve a construction contract with Industrial Controls and Electrical LLC for the City of Lakeland wastewater treatment plant SCADA system.
Okay, all right, this is the sewer board, so do I have a motion to take this to the floor? All right, I have a motion by Vice Mayor Roman, and do I have a second? I have a second from Commissioner Plum. Items properly on the floor, do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Item passes unanimously. Madam Recorder, next item, please.
Consent agenda, approval of meeting minutes from previous meetings, special meeting minutes, January 7th, 2016, regular meeting minutes, January 14th, 2016, resolution authorizing the city manager to complete the LPRF grant application process for the approximate 35-acre property on Highway 70 referred to as the Jones property located south of the Lakeland Middle School property. Resolution authorizing a construction contract with Industrial Controls and Electrical LLC for the wastewater treatment plant SCADA system.
Okay, we have a motion to get the consent agenda to the floor. We have a motion by Commissioner Plum, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dial. Consent agenda is properly on the floor. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Item passes unanimously. Madam Recorder, next item.
Regular agenda, resolution adopting an IH park improvement plan.
Okay, do I have a motion to get this to the floor?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Plum. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Dial. And items properly on the floor for discussion. I know we're going to have discussion on this. I guess we would like to go to the manager's report on this, and then we will discuss after. Mr. Manager, do you have a report?
Sure, and this will be one of two items discussing IH. The second one being the actual budget amendment. We'll go over numbers and estimates and whatnot. This is the resolution that came in as two separate resolutions last week. We combined them into one. So I just want to go over this as sort of the meat of the resolution here. The top section being these are the prioritized items for this year, for moving forward with now. These are reflected later in the budget amendment. We'll go over in a minute as another item. And then the second part of this is the other items that were discussed, and these are the ones to be sent back to the Parks Board for further consideration and master planning. So that's what this resolution does, strictly prioritizing the items. And again, the estimates will be coming up in a minute.
When you say window repair, redesign to the club room, those French doors, correct? reprised?
Yeah, we actually have two options, one sliding windows and French doors. We'll talk about with the budget amendment. That's what we have estimates on, but yeah, that would be the improvement to the back of the reference.
Okay,
Correct.
all right. Thank you. Any questions, commissioners, any comments? All right, seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Item passes unanimously. Madam Recorder, next item, please.
Ordinance final reading, amending the fiscal year 2015-2016 budget passed by ordinance 15-222 and amended by ordinance 15-225.
Okay, do I have a motion to get this to the floor? Motion from Vice Mayor Roman. Do I have a second? I have a second from Commissioner Plunk. Items properly on the floor. This is what we had our public hearing on. Commissioners, do we have any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Okay, oh, I'm sorry. If we will close voting for a second and go to the city manager, getting hand motions from him that are appropriate.
Sure. This is where it might be appropriate to go over the changes from last week with the IH Park budget estimates and amendment to this ordinance. So,
Yeah,
if you're okay with it.
Let's do that for the record. I know, commissioners, you got those via email and have had a chance to look at those, but for the public, you're correct. Thank you for bringing that up. We close voting for this report, so go ahead and give us a second.
Okay, with the improvements to the recreation room, IH clubhouse, you had me go back and sort of I did these renderings, so they're not very professional, but they're the best I could do. But the option 2 was the French doors that we had talked about. One thing that I did not think about until I really sat down and looked at it was the fact that when you come out of these French doors, there are going to be steps immediately down to the deck. So I want to make sure and point that out. That's because the deck has to be at the bottom of that electrical service box in either option. So with the French doors, they would open and you would walk out. It also restricts some of your site. The area that looks like rock is the area that the windows currently take up. So you can see how much window area is reduced with this option, whereas the sliding windows that were priced with the estimates, they actually are the same width as the existing windows. They're just a little bit short. Well, we reduced the height of them a little bit to add that knee wall in. So you still have the same view from the room with the sliding windows. So I want to make sure and point that out because that may be something that wasn't thought about ahead of time. The price is pretty similar because with the sliding windows, if we put that knee wall in, which we're just talking about, I don't know, 2 to 3 foot wall just to bring it up off the floor because right now the windows go to the floor. So there'll be some masonry involved underneath those windows, and with the French doors, of course, that's quite a bit of masonry involved there. So that's the 2 options. If you want to let me know which one you want to proceed with, like I said, the cost is probably close to the same. But we still would add the door to the senior center on the one side, and then the existing door is a solid door. We would probably put a French door in there to add some light. If we did French doors on the back face, we would probably just remove that door altogether because there would really be no need for that door anymore. Are there any questions between these?
Okay, commissioners, time for discussion, and you can just stay there, Emily, if you want. We can get any discussion. I know we're going to have an opinion here, so.
Now with the service, let me add this real quick. I didn't show covering that service just because I wanted you to see, to clearly see where it was. But I mean, we could probably put something over it looks like a column, as long as we left a door at the bottom. So we can mask it, but I just didn't draw that in. So just know that it won't just stand out as much as it does now. It won't be just a silver light.
Rustic wood look over it or something like that.
Yeah, make it look sort of like a column.
Okay. Okay, commissioners, let's hear some opinions.
I like option 2. The price is the same. Looks more aesthetically pleasing.
Option 2, Joshua.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I was just saying that
Did
it's.
you have your mic?
Yeah, it doesn't work, something's going on. I don't know.
Maybe push the button.
Push every button.
Yeah, it's not
Hasn't worked
working.
like a
Our audio guy is, there we go, there he is, right there.
It's all right. So like I was just saying that if the price is the same, then I like the option 2 as far as the aesthetic, pleasing of it.
So would it be sliding doors or would it be?
The French door,
First door.
the French door.
Okay.
Yeah, I do have a.
Yeah, that's probably one.
And that's all I had to say.
Okay, all right, why don't we do this so the it won't be so hard for the minutes clerk. I'm gonna scoot over this to this chair here, and I'm gonna give you that chair and share mark here, Mr. Vice Chair. Or, I'm gonna uproot you, Commissioner. I know it's gotta be difficult recording.
Emily, can I ask you something, as far as the box, we talking about, would that deck or surround that box, or could we do that with the deck? Can we, to get to the box where maybe you put a top over the box where it wouldn't have to worry about kind of columns that could go. In other words, the deck would be kind of built around that box.
Well, we have to, the panel, to get to the electrical service is the whole front of the box. So the deck would have to be below the box, but we could build, something out of wood that kind of goes around it that's removable, or has a door or something. But the deck would have to be at the level below that surface. And you can see it there, it's really pretty much at the ground surface. So the deck is gonna have to be right at kind of where the existing ground is. So you'll have to step down from the existing deck there. You'll have to have a step down to be able to access that electrical box.
Would it make sense to have something like the same type of materials that would go over around the box where it looks like it's part of the deck?
Yeah, that's what I would recommend, is doing sort of like a wood column to cover the box and the pipe going up.
So you wouldn't need metals that really,
No.
it would look like part of the deck.
Right, yeah, you would try to make it look that way. You just need to be able to remove that part in front of that door.
Right.
To be able to access it if you ever needed to.
Okay. I like the French doors.
Yeah, I do too.
Yes, me too.
Commissioner Dow. So that's unanimous from the commissioners present. So
Okay.
if we can just move forward with option 2, this will be amended. Any other comments, questions, anything like that? What about the lighting upgrades? We're talking about doing those in the trees?
Yes. So this is just kind of an aerial view of the area we're talking about, the amphitheater. I wanted to make sure to point out where the septic field lines, that's an approximate area, so we can't really do much there, except we could put some more sod down. You cannot have more than 3 foot of fill over them, and that's pretty much what they have. You also cannot, this is per Shelby County regulations, requirement. You also can't put any heavy machinery on it, so no grading or anything on top of them. So what we did was we looked to where they stop. You can actually, we might have to add a retaining wall. I added that into the price. I'm not sure that we can get, by terracing that area, I'm not sure we can make the grades match without putting a small wall. Now we're just talking about a 2 foot or so wall, nothing really substantial. But it includes, the price includes the design. It's more than I could do in-house. The wall and the terracing sod, and then lighting, which is in the trees. I think that included 10 lights. They're LED, so very little maintenance at all. And the effect they give is like a moonlight effect. So they sound really neat, and they were recommended from a very respectful landscape architect. So that's what we went with. I think that will be really nice there.
So when you're talking about going through the trees, it's actually through the trees, I mean, it's just, they can be moved
The
or
lights, they're actually up in,
in the
really
tree.
high in the tree, and
In
they
the
just
trees,
kind of, yeah, they just light down, like, just like if it was moonlight. But they're located up really high in the tree.
Right.
Kind of look like a lamp.
At the lamp at the lamp.
Yeah.
Just the terrace thing, we're talking about, what level, how many levels of the terrace would there be?
It would probably be 2. Now, we would know better once we get a design, but just by looking at it, it'd probably be 2.
Right.
Um,
Well, I like the idea, I always like the idea of having the retaining walls.
mhm.
I think it's more aesthetic, it's nice, so I think to me, looks like it's a better look to it.
Yeah,
I know that, because I've talked to A2H probably 3 times this week, and they're saying that retaining wall would have nothing to do as far as the septic lines going down, that it wouldn't bother those at all, so.
well, you can't, just the county regulates, you cannot put a structure on top of septic field lines. We can't put it on top of the field lines, but this would be behind it.
Yeah.
And it would be the one retaining wall and sort of the middle line, the separation between the 2 terrace levels would be, that would be sod.
That's
That
what
would
I'm
be
talking
like a gentle slope.
about.
But the one retaining wall, which would be on the back side of the septic field lines, is just to be able to match that grade between the existing grade and our terracing.
You have the maximum amount of fill on top of them, and you can't put heavy equipment on.
Or structure,
Or
which
structures.
would be the retaining wall.
Retaining
Yeah.
wall. Yeah, but that's gonna be nice. It is
Yeah.
gonna have a retaining wall there at the base.
Yeah, I think it'll look really nice. Yeah.
Really, the part that's terrace is the steep part of the hill, but it's really where you need it. By the time you get down to the septic line, it's pretty flat. So this will look really nice.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we're talking about the same thing, you know, but as far as the walkway going down, is there be a retaining wall that goes down to the walkway next to the terrace?
Well, there's no design yet, we still have to design it.
Okay.
So those questions are unanswered at this point.
I assume this design is something that we can do the maintenance on as a city? Is
Yeah.
there anything here that's gonna be reoccurring? I mean, our budget went from 300,000 to about 600,000 for basically, parts for the year. I just want to see how much of that is reoccurring.
This would, I mean, as far as the maintenance, would just be mowing and trimming. The lights, if they're LED, I mean, they probably will never need to be changed out unless, something unforeseen happens. And then other than that, we're not really adding much else. The retaining wall should not be a problem. We're looking at probably like some type of a rock, to match, maybe what's on the bottom of the senior center.
Right. Okay.
We just had outdoor LEDs installed at my work that burn 24/7, and they have a 10-year lifespan, estimated 10-year lifespan. So, I mean, you're talking about, these things are going to last a long time. Low maintenance and low cost of operations. So I think recurring expense is probably very, very little recurring expense. A lot of this is one-time capital. So, which we are. Well, I guess I should have asked, we're amending our budget. Are we amending the capital budget? Because this isn't an operational expense, how we handle it?
The improvements to IH Park are actually in 3 different places. This area here is in Parks and Recreation budget in capital section. There's a capital section in IH Clubhouse's budget for the parking and some additional lighting. And then the repairs to the club room are just in repairs and maintenance to the building.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you. I figured you were on it. Okay. That looks good. I think all questions are answered. Any other questions, commissioners, comments? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Item passes unanimously. Madam Recorder, next item, please.
Ordinance final reading, amending the membership of the Economic Development Commission and updating the Lakeland Code.
Okay, do I have a motion to get this to the floor?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Dow. Do I have a second? Second from Commissioner Plunk. Items properly on the floor for discussion. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, let's move to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Item passes unanimously. Madam Recorder, next item, please.
Resolution appointing a Board of Commissioners liaison to the Economic Development Commission.
Okay, we have a motion to get this to the floor.
Yes.
A motion from Commissioner Dow and a second from Commissioner Plum. So items properly on the floor. The liaison to the Economic Development Commission, what we normally do is just nominate the commissioners who are interested in serving and then move to a vote. I have a nomination, but I'll defer to Commissioner Plunk if you want to make a nomination. Did you
I
want
was
to?
going to nominate Commissioner Roman.
Okay. Commissioner Plunk nominated Vice Mayor Roman, and that was the same nomination I had. Do we have a motion to close nominations, I guess? A motion to close
Yes.
nominations? We have a motion by Commissioner Dial and a second in closing nomination. We have a second to close nomination. Second from Commissioner Plunk. And so we, without objection, will close nomination, elect Vice Mayor Roman, appoint him to that position by acclamation. Is that without objection? Seeing no objection, so ordered. Madam Recorder, congratulations. Vice Mayor Roman is appointed the liaison to the Economic Development Commission. Next item, please.
Ordinance first reading authorizing the organization of the Keep Lakeland Beautiful Commission of the City of Lakeland, Tennessee.
Okay, we have first reading on this ordinance. Do I have a motion to get this to the floor? I have a motion from Commissioner Roman. Do I have a second? I have a second from Commissioner Plunk. Items properly on the floor. I would like to say just one brief thing. My position on this is that we need the Keep Lakeland Beautiful Commission. I believe we do need that. Operationally, I think it needs to be a subcommittee of parks. That's the way I thought of it, fitting in the scheme of things. I'm leery of adding committees because of the extra workload, the extra requirements it places on staff. And so I won't be voting in favor of this, and will ask for a roll call vote simply because of the organizational structure, not the mission of Keep Lakeland Beautiful. Madam Recorder, if you'll call the roll.
Vice Mayor Roman,
Yes.
Commissioner Dial,
Yes.
Commissioner Plump,
Yes.
Mayor Bunker.
No.
3-1.
All right, item passes. Madam Recorder, for public discussion, I was passed a card for Lou Melton. Lou, if you would come to the stand, just give us your address for the record. You wanted to, I would have called you earlier, but we had already voted on the item you indicated in the card, so.
It's okay.
um,
Lou Melton, 9584 Pine Point Drive. I missed last week's meeting and haven't been able to see the video yet, so forgive me, please, if I'm having to ask about this. The resolution on the 35 acres on Highway 70 applying for a grant. Please explain what's our goal, how much money are we borrowing to purchase this, what are we going to do with it, anticipation of completion date, how much will the grant cover, details, please.
Right, and we've all, I think, been through the discussion multiple times and could probably answer very thoroughly, but the best equipped person to answer is going to be our city manager. It's actually going to be two stages in these grants. There's $250 apiece, correct? That's right.
Well, yeah, the grant was originally given to the city in 2012 for this exact site. It was diverted to the Memphis Arlington site, $250,000, $250,000. Or to Memphis Arlington, we couldn't get a land deal done with the owner at the time, but it was still our best site. We now have a better understanding with that owner, coming back with a similar but different project, a smaller one. Instead of 85 acres, 35 acres adjacent to the school, $250,000, and that's what this would authorize to divert from Memphis Arlington back to the original site. No loans to do this, using grant funds and other already acquired funds through development fees and whatnot.
What's the goal for the property? I mean, the original property was going to be soccer fields or something like, well, not the original, sorry, the secondary property, Memphis Arlington Canada Road was gonna be soccer fields, and we didn't get there because that property had too much, field. We needed too much field there.
Same thing, it's an athletic facility. It'll have soccer fields, baseball, softball, everything we had hoped to get back in Arlington and originally back at the Jones site.
And an anticipated date.
We hope to secure the grant fund for this summer, and then
Okay,
we'll be working in phases now. We haven't had the design put together, so we'll be working through those details.
okay, one last thing. 35 acres,
Mhm.
have we got to fill in there, or what's that particular 35 acres like as opposed to?
There's not a tree on it, and it's almost perfectly flat.
And that's
Much
the reason,
easier to
it was-
develop.
that's the reason we went back to that site, as opposed to Memphis Arlington. The topography of Memphis Arlington is so sharp, the grading was gonna eat up a lot of the funding
Mhm.
that we received here for grant funds. This piece of property, because of its proximity to sewer, its topography, it doesn't have trees that need to be removed. The funds can be directed more towards infrastructure for the field, your drainage system and so forth.
Any chance we could sell that one at Canada Road and Memphis Arlington? Just a thought, we've been asking for it, I mean,
She's reading our mail.
use it.
You're reading our mail. That's been discussed.
Yeah.
That has, and that's certainly something the board will have to consider, but certainly been discussed.
I'd like to see it access right how it's going to. I know you're building that just the way I want it. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Lou. I have David Abbott. David? Just give us your address for the record, please, sir.
Yes, sir. David had 34 Lake Bedford Code, and you seem to sit back there with this all the time, and I rarely come up here and put a picture in the paper, right? Well, I see everybody else's picture, right, when they stand up here, so looking all
You break the camera, Jim?
Working on it. No, I rise today because last month's meetings, at both of them, I heard an emphasis put on clean audit, and being a licensed CPA in the state of Tennessee, I thought there was more given to that word than there may have been. Okay, and I just wanted to make sure everybody understands what that means. It seems like there was a concerted effort to emphasize that as if it means something larger than what it really means. And so I just want to take a moment here to just try to clarify the error and what a clean audit means. And if I can read this just briefly, it says, it's the most frequent type of report, an unqualified opinion is what it means, okay? And it's regarded as many as a claim of bill of health to a patient that it's led many to call it a clean opinion, but in reality, because the auditor can only provide reasonable assurance regarding the financial statements, not the health of the entity or the integrity of the records, not part of the audit. This type of report is issued by an auditor when they're free of material misstatements. What I'm saying is just a fantastic accountant. Because I'm an accountant. I've been an accountant for 25 years now. And so what I heard coming from the board and from other comments was that it represented some sort of representation of our financial health. You know, I got involved in all of this when the 50 million bond came down and all that stuff. And so it doesn't reflect on anybody up there. You can't affect the audit results. It's not clean or adverse, qualified, unqualified, but any management decision. It's good accounting and good representation of the financial statements, right? Another small definition here, very small. A clean opinion does not necessarily mean that the firm is financially strong or that its future is favorable. Since even financially weak firms generally receive clean opinions, clean audits. Even the weakest of places can get a clean audit if the accounting was accurate. Okay? And so it's normally, it's kind of like the most common thing, right? You go in, you don't find anything that's misstated. The financial statements are sound, and you get a clean audit by the auditor. But the auditor stood up here, and he kind of was complicit in the narrative that was trying to be portrayed. And I think it was a little deceiving in that, even I wish Sherry were here because I hate to say what she said, but it was on the West when West recorded it, put it on Lakeland Currents. If you go back and watch it, if I can quote, Sherry says, and you can watch it, it's out there for everybody to see. Our audit is very clean, And that's very rare. He stood right here where I'm at and said, it is. And so I called Trey today and I said, really? Rare? It's the most common type of audit there is a clean audit. Okay, I don't do audit. I'm not in the public accounting world. My license is actually inactive right now because I don't really enjoy that field of work. I'm an IT guy now. But the fact is, it was being portrayed as something larger than it really is. And it just means that Jessica's a heck of an accountant, and good job, I applaud you, so way to go. But it doesn't mean the city's in good shape. It doesn't mean we're not buried under a mountain of debt. And then we're going to get more in debt if you get your way, if we can't stop the freight train, right?
Okay.
And so what I'm just saying is that I think it was misrepresented by all parties, including you and the auditor, and I thought with Lakeland Currents, everybody was making this out to somebody tonight.
Yeah. Well, and we appreciate your participation in the discussion portion of the meeting. As I recall the discussion, it was there were a couple of different topics that were discussed. One was the audit, which is a clean bill of health, and it is significant, whether or not you want to downplay it or not. I believe, Jessica, if you could come up to the microphone, I've got a couple of questions for you. It is significant that we have monitored the finances of the city as closely as we have. For the last couple of years since we have been in office, we've gone through each and every line item in the budget, which did not happen in previous years. I can tell you because the first couple of years I served here, I served with a commissioner that had a long stint on this commission and was unfamiliar with much of the budget. And when we went through line items, is it true or is it not true that in previous years there were findings, one or more? All right. Is it true or is it not true that a finding is bad?
Not favorable.
Not favorable. Very good. Is it or is it not true that in the previous administration, are you
I
familiar?
feel like I'm on trial.
Yeah. You may not be familiar with this, I don't know, but are you familiar with the embezzlement from the that occurred during the previous administration?
Yes.
All right. With good operating standards in place, that this clean bill of health, internal controls that are viewed favorably by our accountant through our audit, that is the best way to ensure that we don't have future embezzlements. Is that true? Okay. Thank you very much. So that's what we talked about there. Now, the next part I want to ask you about that we talked about was the financial health of the city. And so that was a totally separate discussion. I know we meshed them together and tried to link them together. There's two separate discussions. So is it or is it not true that we are in solid financial position as a city?
Yes.
All right. And what is our projected fund balance for the 2015-2016 fiscal year?
We don't have those numbers yet. We're only.
I thought we were projecting about, what, $3 million?
Oh, as far as the budget's concerned, there's a surplus of about $2 million.
$2 million.
Yes.
Okay.
And what I wanted to point out is in the 15 audit, which is what we're discussing, we had an increase in fund balance of $3.4 million. Increase
of 3.4. We're projected to have maybe 2 this year.
Revenues exceeded expenditures.
Okay. And that indicates a solid financial position for the city. Great. That's all we were pointing out, is that the city is in solid financial position, and we have internal controls, a strong bill of health and internal controls that will help ensure, not guarantee, but help ensure that we don't have the embezzlement that we saw in the past. Our fund balance is going to be what, kind of at the end of the year, what are we projecting our fund balance?
In 15, it was $10 million total across the city, and projecting $2 million, so 12. $2 million
increase, so 12. And what was it? Do you recall what it was a couple of years ago when it took office?
I don't.
Okay.
Before any of the tax increases, correct?
Hang on one second. I got the floor right now. Go ahead.
I believe it was somewhere in the 6 to 7 million.
6 to 7 million.
A couple of years ago.
Okay. So it's doubled, or it's due to double this year. Is it true that our salaries and benefits are less than they were 2 years ago. Okay, so our salaries and benefits are less. And I assume that that came from the cuts in personnel and the cuts to salaries and benefits that this body implemented since we've been in, correct? Okay. Just want to make sure that we're all clear on this.
Fiscal
Yes.
year 15, this increase in fund balance is before the property tax increase.
Okay, and that's before the property tax increase. Thank you, I know that was.
Can I say one just follow-up?
Hang on 1 second. 1 second. We have the floor. It's not a dialogue. You had your chance, all right, to talk, and you made your points. I'm just trying to make sure that people know that they're not valid. It's kind of like your comments online about the sunshine law that weren't relevant and weren't related to the law. Go ahead, Commissioner Plum.
Yeah, I just want to throw in there that at the very end, when the auditor was talking to us as a group, I wanted to make sure, I wanted him to say that we're on solid financial ground. I asked him, I just wanted to make sure that he would say it out loud, and there's a record of that, I'm sure. We could bring back, I don't understand what you're complaining about, actually.
Can I speak again? Because I'm not looking to argue with you.
But I made a point to ask the gentleman, the auditor, so you're telling us that Lakeland we're in great shape, we're in good shape, we're on good, solid ground, and he just, yes, you are, yes.
Operationally speaking, internal controls,
Right.
all of that's in good health, and our city finances are in good health, not including the tax increase. We're in a position to double
Yeah, I'm just
our
trying to get the man to say something negative. He wouldn't say, he had nothing to say negative.
salary and benefits are down. Our operations are more efficient. So you really have to look hard to try to find something negative to say. But I'll leave it to you, David, to do that. That's not my job. Commissioner Roman, did you want to speak?
I was going to say my comments in the currents were about the auditor's comment, not necessarily in the clean bill of health. It was when he was comparing us to other municipalities, and he said that it was rare of how smooth it went and how basically how little findings, actually no findings that he found. So that's my comments were his comparison to other cities and how well we ranked. The other thing is, this is a good time. We've done a lot of good things so far, and I guess this 3 months. We're about to create a separate Lakeland Beautiful. The amphitheater's coming up. This is a great time to be in Lakeland, and we talked a lot about bringing everybody together and having a very positive vibe in Lakeland. And I think so I appreciate your comments. And anytime you have a comment, bring it to us. But if we're going above and beyond to try and bring everybody together, if you guys can do your part out.
So am I done? I'm ready to sit down.
I'm inclined to only give people one time to speak, David, and you used your time, unfortunately, to try to disparage our city. It certainly, the comments weren't positive. They weren't intended to be positive. And, I don't limit people to positive comments, but if you have some facts to bring instead of speculation, we know what an audit is, okay? And you speculated, you were talking about how it doesn't mean the city is in good financial health.
It does,
And
that's a fact.
the insinuation there is that we're not in good financial health even though we had a good audit. We had two separate conversations about our audit and about our financial position of the city, and you tried to mix the two to try to shed, I guess, a poor light on what we're trying to do. I see and hear about some of the things you say online, or what I referenced a minute ago about the sunshine law comments y'all came up with about us going to dinner or socializing afterwards, and now it's finances. It's a never-ending cycle of criticism of this board and what we do. And the comments about the sunshine law were absolutely off base. The sunshine law doesn't govern social interaction. between these board members, other than it directs them not to deliberate to a vote on the issues. They can go to dinner and they can socialize, whatever they want to do, but there's disparaging comments made online about that. And it's all odd because I know Lou Melton came up here and was upset because in one of the meetings I had some things to say to her. She was upset about what I'd said and I guess the direct points I made towards her. And then she comes out online and participates in something like that. And then you come up and you make comments like this that are leading people to believe that our city is not financially sound. We've done some tremendous things up here since I've been on this body to bring this city to a position of financial accountability. This city is in much stronger financial position than it was 2 years ago. We have all the things we've already reviewed with the salary and benefits, our fund balance, our internal controls, all are substantially improved, including our budget process where we review every line item. So
I'm not going to say anything disparaging.
Can I
Go ahead.
say one final thing? This is a CAFR, a comprehensive annual financial report. Comprehensive being the key word. It's 90 pages this year. I will say that an opinion in itself is not indicative of a city's financial health, and a finding in itself is not the single source of the single opinion on whether or not we're in good financial health. But if you read this 90-page document in its entirety and you understand it, I promise you it shows that we are in good financial health.
all right, thank you.
And that's really my point.
Just one thing, I didn't hear at the very start when David came forward. Is he a CPA?
His background is as a CPA. Yes, sir.
Just one.
Yeah, but all I was trying to say is what Jessica said at the beginning is that the intent of an audit isn't to give an opinion on financial health. That was my point.
Certainly we understand that.
That's all.
But I think your intent was to draw questions about the financial health of the city. That's what I'm getting at. And I think it's clear from anyone listening that that was the point. I'm going to go to Arnie Holcomb. Mr. Holcomb, if you would come up and give your address for the record, please, sir.
Well, I didn't win the Powerball lottery last week, so I'm back again. My name is Arnold Holcomb, 10103.
Mr. Holcomb, can you speak into the microphone, please, sir? Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Arnold Holcomb. My address is 10103 Ridgewood Oak Drive.
Okay.
The topics I'd like to address this evening are the same topics I've been addressing for the past 3 years. Primary topic is the emergency litter situation we have along our beautiful roadways. MLGW didn't help matters much, leaving the debris, the stumps, and the tree trunks with either frayed headdresses or no headdress at all. They are a business. They are subject to our municipal code, just like developers are, just like home builders are, and just like the citizens of our community are. Citizens and developers are not allowed to leave debris like what we see along our roadways. I'm most concerned, obviously, because I live in Oakwood, with C. Dick Road and Huff Puff. I'm also concerned with Memphis Arlington Road. I don't get around the entire city, but if that's an indication of the type of work that MLGW's been doing throughout our city, then it's unacceptable. If we offered the CEO of MLGW to have some of those crappy looking trees transplanted into his yard at his house and to dump the debris that has been left along our beautiful roadways in his front yard. I'm sure that he'd have a problem with that. I don't know what you have to do to remedy this situation. The litter problem is an emergency, I think, and I think it's going to take appropriation of funds to ensure the city manager can meet the requirements. The requirements are virtually litter-free roadways throughout our entire city. If someone messed up and didn't coordinate and plan properly to ensure that MLGW didn't leave this mess the way they have, then you need to appropriate money to clean that up too. We have a window of opportunity. People are going to be coming in here looking for houses to buy from here through probably May. And if they see this, they're going to be discouraged. And they may not even come into these housing areas and start looking at houses. It's very, very negative image of the city. And it's gotten worse since I moved here 5 years ago. This is wisteria. This was growing in the trees near Heron's Ridge. I don't live in Heron's Ridge, but I have a heart and a conscience. And that's the reason I'm here this evening. I haven't talked to their homeowners association. I only know a few people that live over there. But it just looks terrible. I've heard Miss Rose talk about her concerns on Huff Puff. It's the same deal. The wisteria that grows in the trees on Huff Puff produce, well, the purple flowers, purple and white flowers, a wonderful aroma, and if we allow MLGW to come in here and just kill everything like this, we're not going to have this kind of stuff eventually. The way I look at it, this is God's art, okay? This is God's nature. We're supposed to be taking care of it. I have some updated statistics to report. A month ago, I reported that based on my data for picking up trash along the little bit of roadway that my family picks up trash on, that on average there are about 11 pieces of trash per mile per day deposited on our roadways. If the portion of roadway that my family tries to keep litter free is indicative of what goes on in our city, 11 pieces per mile is based on data that I collected about a year ago. This past 6 weeks, I've been picking up trash on C-Tick, and it's 15 pieces of trash per mile per day deposited on our roadways. Now, if you look, if you do the math on that, and perhaps I'm misassuming here, but I'm assuming we have approximately 30 miles of roadway within Lakeland. I may not be accurate there. That's 164,250 pieces of trash a year that goes out the windows of vehicles, okay? If you assume that each piece of trash on average is 2 ounces, okay? A beer bottle is really, the average is 7 ounces, okay? A beer can is 1 ounce. So if you assume it's 2 ounces, 27,375 pounds of trash is deposited on our roadways, okay? In short tons, that's 2,000 pounds per ton, that's 164.25 short tons of trash thrown out the windows of vehicles on our roadways. It's not being picked up. You can't, and I've said this before, you can't rely on volunteers to do all this. You've got to provide a very robust fund to ensure that this man has the resources to ensure this stuff is cleaned up. And I understand I'm on a time limit here, Mr. Mayor. That's another complaint I have. You know, when you folks were running for office, you came to us. You wanted to hear what we had to say. We were on the front burner. Now, we're in the back of the bus at the end of the meeting, and we sit here 3 hours sometimes to get to talk 5 minutes. And then we get the hand signals to speed it up. I don't appreciate that. I'm a tax-paying citizen. I write a $4,000-something check to Shelby County every year and a $1,000-something check to Lakeland every year because I paid cash for my house. It's very obvious how much my check is. It's right in my face, and I don't appreciate getting hand signals when I'm pushed to the back of the bus at this kind of meeting. Thanks for your time. I'm sorry I bothered you this evening.
No, it's no problem, Arnie. We appreciate your input. Here's the agendas, the organization of the agendas, for those who don't know, these were set prior to us, and I think that organization of the agenda can't be adjusted. I tried to adjust it at one point, but it can't be adjusted. We can allow for certain things like speaking to specific topics on the agenda at the time the topic's brought up. But as far as public discussion, it is on the agenda by design before we got here. So that being said, I am interested in the trees that were there on the C-tick. There's a couple that are underneath the wires, and they were topped. They were left there. I don't really understand that. I thought they were coming back to remedy that, and I keep waiting, and I pass that, and I see those trees still sitting there, just the trunks of them sitting there. They go to the base of the wires, and I mean, it's right on the roadway, so that's something that I would like to see addressed if we can do that.
We'll check in that timeline.
Yeah, and as far as the litter, I think we're doing more for litter than we ever have, correct? I mean, we've got a couple of employees that are
New employees.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have a long way to go, obviously. 2 guys part-time can only get through so much.
It's gonna help.
As you said, 11 pieces per day, 50 pieces per day. So it's not enough. But we do have some proposals coming up in this budget cycle to make us a little more efficient in that regard. Also, with the KLB ordinance that's going forward right now, one of their main responsibilities is building the volunteer network. So we believe there's more we can do as a city and also build our volunteer networks. We're building from both sides on a parallel track, and that's going to help. I mean, it is a huge problem.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep up with.
Yeah, well, it's always a battle, and I think a combination of the city investing some resources in it and volunteers participating in litter control is the answer. It's also, the discipline of kids. I don't know too many adults, quite frankly. I don't know too many adults my age or older that drive down the road and throw cans and bottles out. Now, there is probably some, but, you know, I know a lot of the citizens here, and I've been in cars with many of them, and I've never been in a car where someone just took their can and threw it out the window. I have as a child, you know, when we were kids, we did, you know, things, but I think probably a lot of it is youth, just throwing cans and bottles and whatever they've got in the car out. So discipline, education by the parents is kind of the parents' responsibility to do that. That's where you're really going to curb the impact of this litter issue we've got. But yeah, we know there's a problem. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just a couple things. Going back to what Arnie was saying, I think he mentioned 35 miles of roadway. Actually, it's like 55 or over. And I was going to ask, do we not have the authority as a body to change the public disclosure?
I checked on, there was a couple of things, and
It used to be at the beginning.
okay.
Yeah, it is an ordinance, so you could adopt a new ordinance to change the order. I feel like it's in the
Okay.
municipal code.
So I tried to change the order, and with the last group that was in, I tried to change the order, and for some reason, I couldn't, I wasn't allowed to change it. I don't know why that was. I thought it was more than just an ordinance. I thought it was
I'll talk
built in
to
our charter.
Chris Patterson about it, but I believe we can
Let's
bring
see.
an ordinance for it. If y'all are open to that, we can.
Yeah,
We can
Well, I
order
would
it.
be, because I think he got a good point.
yeah,
I haven't sit here all night long, just
yeah.
I'm
Let's,
open to it too.
So we could do public discussion for general comments in the front, and then we could do, if they want to speak to a particular item at the time the item's brought up, we could do that for them. And then at the end, announcements and adjournment. So let's look at what it'd take to get that changed. All right. Okay, Madam Recorder, there are no other items I assume to come before this committee. Seeing that, what's that? Okay, give an announcement.
I was given the invitation for the party for raising funds for Lakeland Education Foundation at Bricks and Minifigs, put on, I guess, looks like by the chamber, and in conjunction with the winery. Looks like the rescheduled date, if you guys remember, the old date was like, had a freeze out of it. So the new date is Friday, February 27th from 7 to 9. And the main difference between this and the last one is the last one you could purchase at the door. This one you need tickets in advance so they can make sure they have enough room for everybody, because the room only holds so many people. That's it.
Okay. Any other announcements, Commissioners? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion from Commissioner Dow, do I have a second? Second from Vice Mayor Rowan. Do we have any objection to adjournment? Seeing none, so ordered. We are adjourned.
You got all that.